Om Yama Lakshmi Patayalu Ajushta Abhijaskan Vandana Eva Vriksham Anyatra Asmat Savitatam Ita Dhahiranya Hasta Vasuno Rarana. O God, keep me away from a jushta, hateful, evil kind of Lakshmi, in this case, wealth. Keep me away from bad wealth, which brings patayalu, downfall, and results in the defamation and my not making spiritual progress in my life. That kind of wealth which is not good for me. The kind of greedy wealth with which Abhichaskan creeps up on me like a vandana, a creeper vine climbs up a vriksham, a tree. Keep me away from that kind of wealth, O God. Help me to be aware of the kind of failings in my life. O Creator of the cosmos, you possess the good kind of wealth. What kind of wealth? Hiranyahasta, in your hands. I pray that you grant us that good kind of wealth, which brings us peace, joy, and unity. My dear brothers, my sisters, my fellow souls, Namaste. Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes of his, the definition of insanity, doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. This is true of every aspect of our existence. And you've heard me say this dozens of times, and I will keep saying it because I want all of you to know it word for word. It is that important. Auntie Sham knows it. If we want to change what happens in our lives, we must change the things we do. And to change the things we do, we must change how we think. It all begins with thought. We cannot remain the same. We cannot keep doing the same. We cannot do nothing and yet expect our lives to be somehow magically different. It doesn't work that way. This is an extremely important logic to follow because the logic itself is universal. It applies to everyone. It applies in all aspects of our lives. And it applies at all times. And yes, if we examine and apply this logic in our religious rituals and traditions, the way we pray, we will also see the truth in this. That we cannot keep doing the same things week in and week out and expect to see different results. Yes, it is true. There is power in Vedic prayers and the vibrations that you feel when you chant Vedic prayers. That kind of power helps us to establish that peace of mind and discipline in our lives. When we chant and we focus on prayer, there is value. But understanding the meaning of mantra and living the meaning of mantra in our lives is what brings real value of mantra. And ultimately that change in our own discipline will result in changes in our behavior. It will translate into change in the way we live our lives, in the way we interact with others. What is the easiest way to change someone else? Change yourself first. We change the choice of our words, we change the way we see things, we change the way we interact with people, the way we conduct ourselves. And yes, how we judge or measure our own selves, not someone else. If we're stuck doing rituals without understanding what we do, without being able to see the benefit in our everyday existence, in what we do, how different are we from those people who follow traditions? Not much different. The great Maharishi Swami Dayananda Saraswati spoke so much against superstition, yet we are still buried in so much of it. As far as our prayers are concerned, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Some might disagree. If you teach a parrot to repeat a mantra 1,000 times, the parrot remains a parrot. It knows more words, but it is still a parrot. If we repeat a mantra 1,000 times without making that mantra make some change within us, we are essentially the parrot. My fellow souls, please do not be the parrot. Let's look at the differences between practicing the ritual and going on the real journey. And maybe I put a video out there that some people might have seen this bit. Imagine for a moment you're going to Guyana. Someone dropped you off at the airport, you walk inside, you make yourself comfortable on one of the chairs and you begin singing some beautiful songs. You know, like that song John Denver sung. I'm leaving on a jet plane, don't know when I'll be back again. And you sing that song over and over and over about leaving on a jet plane. Are you going to get to Guyana if you just keep singing that song? No, you actually need to get into the airplane and go on the journey, not sing about the journey. But is this not what many of us do on Sundays? We come to Mandir, we attend satsang, we sing about meeting God, we chant prayers about communicating with God, but we do not really make the effort to undertake and communicate with God. Isn't this what many of us do? And we go away feeling like we have accomplished some things. My fellow souls, if you see the truth in this, let us stop doing it. Let us not just go to the airport and sing. Let us not just come to Mandir and sing. It is a waste of time, money, effort, and breath if we do not undertake the journey itself. We must come to Mandir, and we must commit to using Vedic knowledge, which is disseminated here. We must begin using Vedic knowledge as that vehicle to get yourself to the place you want to be, to your spiritual goal. Just singing at the airport is not good enough and will get you nowhere. Coming to Mandir, sitting, singing and chanting will get us nowhere unless we take it to the next level. This is why in my pravachans I always try to explain our Vedic teachings in a way that you take it, if you take it and apply it in your own life, you can achieve newer, better heights of thinking. And that translates into change in our lives. No, simply sitting here doing rituals, singing loudly, chanting loudly is not enough. It should never be enough. Bhagavad Gita, Yatu sarvani bhutani manye vanupashyati sarva bhuteshu chatmanam tata na vichugupsate. This is from Ishopanishad. Now it tells us that if we understand that everyone else is a part of us and we're not separate entity and we are a part of them, then we can't hate each other. So I ask you this. Most of us know this verse from Ishopanishad. How many of us are practicing that? How many of us abstain and teach ourselves not to hate anyone else, not to dislike anyone else? But we know the verse. We can chant the verse, we can tell you what it means, but we do not practice what it means. This is what we must do. And Bhagavad Gita tells us about this spiritual journey. Purva abhyasena tena eva hridyate hi avashaha api saha jinasur api yogasya shabdha brahma ativartate. The true devotee feels drawn towards God. They feel the strength, they feel the power of that universal presence. Such seekers are inquisitive of mind. They try to rise and transcend above the ritualistic principles. That is just the doing and acting part of the Vedas. And when that kind of inquisitivity is in your mind, that motivation cannot be deterred, it cannot be stopped. With this kind of motivation, we need to seek to go deeper and not just exist on the shallow level of doing and saying and chanting. Think of a seed, that tiny little seed, which given the right conditions, and this is really interesting, most of you have heard the analogies, but let's look at it a little bit differently. The tiny little seed, given the right condition, the right environment, the right nutrition, the right light, and water, will grow to its potential of becoming this humongous tree, right? You are a divine seed. You have that within you. You have that divine potential to become that which you do not even realize. To become above and beyond your wildest imagination. You already have that potential. Here's the difference between you and the seed. The seed has no control over its environment. It cannot move itself and go in search of water. If dropped in the shade, it cannot go and look for better growing environment. It cannot go in search of light. If it's in poor soil, it can't go in search of better growing medium. You, however, have the master of all knowledge, the mother of all knowledge available to you, the Vedas. You have the choice of going and moving yourself to the environment and to the people and to the circumstances and situations which will help you grow. That is the difference between you and that seed. You have control over your environment if you choose to use that control. You have the choice of creating your own environment. And if you choose, you want to, you can live up to your true potential. But how many of us actually take advantage of this? That we have this choice to create our own intellectual, spiritual environment in which we can thrive. We are not the mercy on anybody else. Destiny in our own hands. You, divine seed, when you do not live up to your true potential, who do you disappoint? Do you disappoint your wife, your children, your teacher, your parents, your friends? Or do you disappoint yourself? Let us look at the differences between a knower, someone who knows, and a doer, someone who knows and practices what he knows. There's a big difference between the two. And when we are done here today, I'm hoping that each one of us can identify ourselves as either the knower or the doer. And whatever you identify yourself to be, I hope that as you move on today from Monday, that you take the necessary steps to achieve higher. Let me see if I can explain in a simple manner that all of you can get. Imagine that my two brothers, let me see, Bhai Gandeo and my little brother Satish. Imagine that the three of us, we want to learn how to drive and become good, safe drivers. We haven't driven before. We want to get our driver's license. So me, my two brothers, Satish and Gandeo, we decide, all right, we go get the driver's manual. We study the material. We study it really well. We can read. We can chant the entire paragraph. We can quote from the manual. We know all about the road signs and the rules of the road. We watch endless videos of drivers and instruction videos and things what not to do and accidents. We took all the sample driver's tests online and we passed them all. We were so happy. But my two brothers, Sat and Yandeu, they however took one additional step. They went and took driver's lessons. Got behind the wheel and somebody taught them how to drive. And they passed and they went on and got their license. I, however, never got behind the wheel of a car. I've never really put the knowledge into practice. As far as the theory of driving, I knew everything. But when it's time to drive, do you think I can actually drive? I cannot. And that there is a difference. With all the repetitions of the paragraph of the manuals, passing the written test, I still cannot drive a car. That is the difference between a knower and a doer. I know how to drive, yes. They actually can drive, they put it into practice. How much of our Vedic teachings do we put into practice? How do we look at other living things that we're supposed to protect? Other children of God. How do we interact with nature? All of this that Vedas teaches us, do we put those into practice? My fellow souls, we can recite the mantras from Vedas. We can, so many different rhythms and different tunes we can use. We can read what the mantras mean. When you come to Mandir, we'll explain what mantras mean. You might be able to sweetly sing all the beautiful bhajans without a book. We might be able to quote shlokas from Bhagavad Gita and the Ramayana and verses of the Upanishads, and we can brag to everyone about the sutras of the great sage Patanjali. But if we do not put that practice in, that knowledge into practice, we cannot spiritually thrive. And that is the truth. How many of us are currently in this state of being? And we believe in our minds, we come to Mandir and all is well. I've accomplished my part. I don't need to do anything else. I've gone to Mandir. Yes, there are very different forms of types of bhakti, of devotion. But this is shallow devotion. Bhagavad Gita, Tesham Jani Nitya Yukta Eka Bhakti Vishishyate Priyahi Janina Atyartham Ahamsa Cha Mama Priya. I consider those, Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, those to be of the highest who worship with true knowledge, steadfast, and here's the key word, discipline. Discipline in what? In putting the knowledge into practice. In being able to spiritually drive, not just knowing, but doing. Those who practice that higher knowledge, I'm very dear to them. I hold them highly, and they are priya. They're dear to me. There must be some measure actions which mark improvement in a person. That which is sacrifice in each one of us. It is not just Yajman sitting around Havan Kund. Another verse from Bhagavad Gita. Patram pusham phalam toyam yame bhaktya prayachati tat aham bhakti upahritam ashnami prayata atmana. So in this verse is saying that if one person, if somebody was to offer, and this is offering the divine, bhaktya, with devotion, a leaf, a flower, a fruit, water, or your thoughts, thoughts. It doesn't mean that you have to make physical offerings. Your thoughts. I delightfully partake in that offering with devotion and love. So here's my point. You remember in Guyana, every Sunday morning you saw people going around picking flowers to go to Mandir and to do their prayers. That effort of gathering flowers, you have committed the time. You have committed with a calm and pure mind. You gather flowers in preparation for your sacrifice at Mandir or in your yajna. God accept that too as offering. If you take time to collect, and I know Auntie Jas, she comes here and she sits here and she prepares for Hawan every Sunday morning. That too is yajna. That too is sacrifice when she sits here and does all of that in preparation, even though she might not do the actual offerings. So come in early. When you come in early, and many of us do this, help to lay things out, help to set things up. Satish comes in and he helps to set up the sound system. That too is yajna. You're doing something selflessly out of love and devotion in your heart in preparation for main yajna, but that too is sacrifice. There's this word used here, Prayata Atmana, implying I accept any offerings from that person whose heart is pure. So my fellow souls, let us think practical. Let us be realistic. Worship alone, shallow worship is not enough. Singing bhajans alone is not enough. Chanting alone is not enough. Blindly following and doing rituals alone is not enough. We must take the additional step of understanding what mantras mean, what the bhajans mean, and discipline in putting that into practice in every single aspect of our lives. And when we do this, we will be living the mantra, not just chanting the mantra. And then you will become an accomplished spiritual driver. I pray, my fellow souls, that you commit yourself, each one of you, to go beyond physical rituals, to go above and beyond the singing and the chanting, and to put your prayers into action. That's why today's Pravachan is titled Prayers in Action. You become your prayers. You live your prayers. In every aspect, the way you speak, the way you think, the way you act becomes a prayer. People can see it in you, that you have changed. Be that kind of person, my fellow souls. I thank all of you for being kind, patient, and attentive today. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. With love and humility in my hearts, namaste to each and every one of you. Oh.